Ethan never thought failure could taste this bitter. But staring at the red ink slashed across his research draft, he realized two things: his future was on the line, and the man holding that pen might be the one to ruin him or save him. Professor Callahan didn't believe in mercy. His lectures were famously brutal, his critiques colder than the Chicago winters outside their ivy-covered campus. And yet, beneath that iron facade, there was something in the way his eyes lingered on Ethan, something unspoken, dangerous, and terrifyingly magnetic. The library clock struck 11. The echo seemed to vibrate through the empty hall as Ethan adjusted his glasses, trying to mask his trembling hands. He hadn't planned to be stuck here, trapped with the one man who could unravel him in more ways than academic failure. "You don't argue well, Ethan." Callahan's voice cut through the silence, deep and sharp. "You feel too much. That's your flaw. Academia doesn't need your emotions." Ethan forced a laugh, brittle and thin. "And yet, isn't passion what keeps the words alive?" The professor's brow arched. For a moment, Ethan swore he saw a flicker of admiration, or maybe annoyance. Callahan stepped closer, his scent coffee and faint cologne spilling into Ethan's airspace. "You mistake chaos for brilliance," Callahan murmured, fingers brushing against the margin of Ethan's paper. The contact was accidental, or was it? Ethan's pulse thundered anyway. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Professors and students had rules, clear lines. But every time their eyes locked, Ethan felt those lines blur, stretch, and threaten to snap. Outside, snow fell against the tall windows, muting the world. Inside, the tension grew unbearable. Ethan leaned back in his chair, heart hammering, while Callahan's shadow fell across him like a net. "Rewrite this," Callahan said, tapping the paper. "Tomorrow night. Same time. Don't disappoint me again." Tomorrow night. Alone again. After hours. Ethan nodded, though he didn't trust his voice not to crack. The next night, Ethan returned. His words had been sharpened, his arguments tighter, but his nerves frayed at the thought of Callahan's eyes tracking his every move. He placed the pages on the oak desk. Callahan read silently, the faint scratch of his pen marking notes. Ethan's throat dried as he watched the professor's lips press into a thin line. He wanted approval. He hated wanting it. Finally, Callahan looked up. "Better." Just one word. But it warmed Ethan more than any blanket could. He allowed himself a smile, small and fleeting. Callahan noticed. "Don't mistake progress for victory," he said. But his tone was softer this time, less like a verdict, more like an invitation. Ethan tilted his head. "You ever let yourself be proud of someone, Professor?" The question hung between them. Reckless. Callahan froze, as though Ethan had struck a nerve. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing not in anger, but defense. "I don't have the luxury," Callahan replied, voice low. "Attachment compromises judgment. Or maybe it makes it real," Ethan whispered, surprising even himself. The air shifted. Callahan's gaze pinned him in place, and Ethan realized he wasn't the only one struggling with boundaries. Weeks blurred. Pages piled up. Nights stretched longer. The library became their secret orbit, two men circling a truth neither dared speak. Sometimes, Callahan's hand brushed Ethan's as he passed notes back. Sometimes, Ethan swore their knees touched beneath the desk. And sometimes, the silence between them felt louder than any lecture hall applause. One evening, after another grueling session, Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. "Do you ever wonder if this," he gestured to the mountain of books, The red-marked drafts is all there is. Just endless arguments and deadlines. Callahan leaned back, studying him. And what else would there be? Ethan looked straight at him, heart in his throat. Life. Connection. Something more. The professor's composure cracked. Just for a heartbeat. His lips parted, as though a confession trembled there. But then he looked away, spine rigid again. Go home, Ethan, he said quietly. Ethan's chest tightened. But as he gathered his papers, he caught the faintest tremor in Callahan's hands. The professor wasn't as unshakable as he pretended. And that realization fragile. Dangerous was the spark Ethan couldn't let go of. The storm outside howled louder. Snow piling against the campus. Ethan, restless in his dorm, found himself back at the library door past midnight. He shouldn't be there. He knew it. But some gravity stronger than reason pulled him in. Inside, Callahan sat alone, tie loosened, hair slightly disheveled. He looked human, vulnerable. Not the unbreakable Professor Ethan had always feared. You shouldn't be here, Callahan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Ethan stepped closer. Neither should you. For a long moment, they just stared, two men caught between duty and desire, fear and need. And then, slowly, Callahan stood, closing the space between them. Ethan, he murmured, almost warning, almost pleading. Ethan swallowed hard. Tell me to leave, and I will. But Callahan didn't. That night, the library wasn't about books. It was about a professor lowering his guard, and a student daring to meet him halfway. And though neither of them admitted it aloud, something irreversible had begun. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Callahan's face close, so close, as though a single breath would have bridged the distance between them. But the professor hadn't kissed him. He had stopped, pulled back, and left Ethan stranded between devastation and desperate hope. The following days felt heavier than any exam. Callahan's lectures were the same, controlled, calculated, but Ethan noticed the cracks. A lingering glance when he thought no one was looking. A pause in his words when their eyes met. The mask was slipping, and Ethan could feel it. Still, silence was its own kind of cruelty. One evening, unable to bear it anymore, Ethan confronted him. He waited outside the faculty building, snow clinging to his coat, when Callahan emerged, carrying his briefcase like a shield. Ethan blocked his path. Why are you doing this? Ethan's voice shook. Pretending nothing's happening. Pretending you don't feel it. Callahan's jaw clenched. He scanned the empty campus before answering. Voice low. Because it's wrong. Because if I let myself feel it, Ethan, I won't be able to stop. The words cut, but they also ignited something. Ethan stepped closer, heart pounding. Then don't stop. For the first time, Callahan looked undone. His breath fogged in the icy air as he whispered, You don't understand what it would cost me. And you don't understand what it costs me. Ethan shot back, eyes burning. Every night, sitting across from you, wanting to say something, wanting to be something, and watching you shut me out. The silence that followed was deafening. Callahan's fingers tightened around his briefcase until finally, he let it fall into the snow. His hand lifted, almost against his will, brushing against Ethan's cheek. The touch was fleeting, but it was enough. Ethan leaned into it, closing his eyes, memorizing the warmth. But then Callahan pulled away, retreating into the shadows of his own fear. "Go home," he said, and walked off, leaving Ethan shivering in the cold. The weeks that followed were torture. Rumors spread about the strict professor being unusually distracted, unusually harsh. Ethan avoided the library, avoided temptation, but the ache didn't fade. Graduation loomed, and with it, the end of excuses to see him. Ethan handed in his final paper perfected not just for the grade, but for the man who had demanded more from him than anyone else ever had. On the day of his thesis defense, Ethan spotted Callahan at the back of the hall. Their eyes met. For the first time, Ethan presented not just with logic, but with heart. His arguments burned with passion, and when he finished, the room erupted in polite applause. But all he saw was Callahan, standing silently, pride and pain warring in his expression. Afterward, Ethan walked out, diploma in hand, a hollow victory gnawing at him. He had achieved everything he wanted except the one thing that mattered most. He didn't expect Callahan to follow. "Ethan," the professor called, voice rough, almost breaking. Ethan turned, holding his breath. "You were brilliant today," Callahan said. "Not because of me. Because you stopped being afraid." Ethan's throat tightened. "And you? Are you going to stop being afraid?" The world seemed to pause. Snowflakes drifted around them, muffling the noise of departing students. Callahan's eyes softened, the war inside him finally surrendering. He stepped closer, not as a professor, not as a man chained by rules, but simply as himself. "I'm tired of pretending," he confessed. Ethan's heart leapt. "Then don't." This time, when Callahan's hand touched his face, it didn't pull away. His thumb traced Ethan's jaw as though memorizing it, his forehead resting against Ethan's in a fragile, trembling surrender. "I don't know what comes next," Callahan whispered, "but I know I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you." Ethan smiled, tears stinging his eyes. "Then you won't." And under the falling snow, on the steps of the university, they finally crossed the line both had feared. Callahan's lips met Ethan's tentative at first, then certain, sealing not just a kiss but a promise. Months later, the library no longer felt like a battleground. It was theirs now. Ethan sat at the familiar oak desk, his own research spread out this time as a graduate assistant. Callahan entered quietly, setting down 2 mugs of coffee. "You still overthink your introductions," Callahan teased, though his smile was softer than Ethan had ever seen. "And you still think too much with your head," Ethan countered, smirking. "Good thing you've got me now." Callahan chuckled, reaching out to squeeze his hand. No longer hiding, no longer afraid. The world outside could judge, could whisper, but in here, between books and late nights, they had found something rare, something worth breaking the rules for. And for the first time, Ethan believed that his love wasn't chaos. It was the clearest truth he had ever known. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.